We've made the turn to venture out to what remains of the once important community of St. Thomas. It was founded by Thomas Smith in 1865 and grew to have a population of nearly 500 at its peak. It quickly became an established town of farms and businesses and was at one point the county seat. Before St. Thomas, indigenous communities lived in the Muddy River Valley, raising corn, beans, squash, and cotton as early as 900 AD. Being located at the confluence of the Muddy River and the Virgin River, there was a reliable source of water all year in this arid climate. A few miles to the south, the Virgin River joins the Colorado River as it exits the Grand Canyon and continues its journey towards the Gulf of California. Because of its location, St. Thomas played a vital role in the first John Wesley Powell Colorado River expedition. The expedition began at Green River, Wyoming in May of 1869, and after 3 months of life-threatening river travel, concluded at the confluence of the Virgin River and the Colorado River. Because the Colorado River was well known and documented to the south, Major Powell, along with one other individual, made their way to St. Thomas, while 4 individuals continued downstream with the 2 remaining boats. The dark ridge coming into view right now is basalt, a volcanic rock that is roughly 15 million years old. Remember what it looks like, as it will reappear later in St. Thomas. Here we get our first look at the Muddy River Valley. The remains of St. Thomas are located in the valley on the right, and Virgin Peak is seen in the distance. We have finally arrived at the St. Thomas Trailhead. Here you can see the valley that was called home by nearly 45 families in 1866, establishing a settlement on the freight route from the Colorado River to Salt Lake City. Howdy everyone. Today we find ourselves along the Muddy River in Nevada. In fact, actually, we're pretty much where the Muddy River and the Virgin River come together at a place called St. Thomas. Now, St. Thomas has the distinction of being a town that was a thriving town prior to the 1930s. By 1938, this place was abandoned. In fact, this place was underwater. In the 1930s, with the completion of the Hoover Dam, Lake Mead was created. And once Lake Mead was created, the water started to back up and come up what's known as the Overton Arm, because we're about ready to go through Overton, Nevada. And once that happened, the thriving little community of St. Thomas was no more. In fact, it disappeared underneath the shores of Lake Mead until this extended drought that we are in right now, currently, that has been going on for decades, now has exposed St. Thomas once again. That happened in the early 2000s. Now, I find it fitting that being a professional educator for almost 30 years, I'm sitting on the steps of what's left of the old schoolhouse here in St. Thomas. And this is just one of many foundations that are still dotting the landscape around here. And we're about ready to take a walk. And mind you, we didn't pick a cool day to do this. It's about 104 degrees outside right now, and we are down on an old mud flat. So it is hot, and you would think that being in the desert Southwest, we would know better, but the trail is only a couple of miles long. So we're going to take a look at what's left of St. Thomas on our way back to the car and air conditioning. And then we'll take you along on the trip. So come on along, let's explore the remains of a once thriving town of St. Thomas that were swept away under the waves of Lake Mead. I thought we had the place to ourselves. Looks like the wild burros are in the area. Stay tuned for the blooper reel. St. Thomas was originally located in Arizona, but state boundary adjustments to Nevada in 1866 and 1867 set St. Thomas squarely in Nevada. By December 1870, tax collectors demanded several years of back taxes from the residents, payable in gold or silver immediately. By a vote of 63-2, it was decided to depart St. Thomas, leaving the community practically abandoned. It looks like we've come across our first remnant of the town. Looks like an old piece of the irrigation system utilized throughout the community. St. Thomas was an oasis in the desert with an irrigation system diverting water to produce tree-lined roads and shaded yards. Only the massive tree stumps remain. The irrigation canals also allowed for extensive farming of a variety of grains, melons, fruit trees, as well as vegetable gardens on the land along the muddy river. About 3/4 of a mile down the trail, we see our first home foundation. The concrete foundation looks like it's held up amazingly well for being submerged under Lake Mead for decades. Nothing remains of the wooden home, of course, only its skeletal outline. A little further south, the first named structure comes into view. The map refers to it as home, and compared to the last building, it would have been a much more substantial structure, possibly a 2-story building. The home had a crawl space or basement, hard to tell as it appears to be full of Lake Mead bottom mud. To the back of the building, a cistern is preserved and covered with a grate for safety. The cistern would have contained the water for the household, supplied by the nearby muddy river. These cisterns were cleaned yearly by lowering someone by rope to clean the interior walls. Now, against my better judgment, let's take a look under the house. Phew! Nothing but mud, debris, a few sticks, and a nasty looking foundation crack. No snakes, thank heavens. Outside once again, you can see what remains of a fence. And across the road, the Frenner home. Albert Frenner operated the local threshing machine, simplifying the collection of the yearly grain harvest. The home was substantial with a very thick foundation and well-preserved concrete steps. Here is another cistern, just as dry as the last one. Nothing to see in the bottom but a bunch of sticks and debris. In the middle of the trail lies an old car engine. I'm not sure if this was left over from an abandoned car or utilized as a boat anchor when the Overton arm of Lake Mead covered this place. Looks like we found the bunker house. Named after the family that occupied it, of course, not an underground structure. Did you notice the cistern at the back of the home? I'm walking over to the Gibson home to borrow a cup of sugar. Do you remember the 15-million-year-old basalt we saw as we approached the trailhead? It seems the Gibsons utilized the volcanic rock in their foundation as well as the walls of their very large home. The contrast would have been striking. It looks like the cistern was located within the home and very well built. The remains display a level of comfort not seen in the other homes in the area that we have observed so far. Here's another piece of the irrigation system found throughout the community. The rock-lined depression along the trail may be marking the irrigation canal with the muddy river seen in the distance. The Hanig store was built by Reinhold and Celinda Hanig. The building housed a grocery store and soda fountain and was known as the Hanig Ice Cream Parlor. The chimney of the Hanig grocery store is now the tallest remaining structure in St. Thomas. The very well constructed foundation next to the store was that of the blacksmith shop. Wagons, cars, farm machinery, and the railway all would have utilized its services. Just to the south of the blacksmith shop, we find what remains of the school. It would have been, without a doubt, the focal point of the small community. It was a two-story masonry building constructed in 1915. Prior to its construction, parents educated their children in tents, parlors, or living rooms. Education was an important aspect of daily life to the people of St. Thomas. The school consisted of 4 classrooms, a large auditorium, and a space upstairs for dances and plays. It provided education for 8 grades. Students attending high school had to endure a ride in the back of a Model T Ford truck lined with benches to Overton, Nevada. The St. Thomas School was closed in 1932 when many residents left town as construction was underway on the new Hoover Dam. And then this happened. Hey everybody. Well, as you can tell, the video took a rather serious tone, and I wanted to show what exactly happened that day when we were filming out at St. Thomas. First of all, we're both okay, and our daughter is okay.
Yep.
Everything turned out just fine in the end. In fact, actually, we finished shooting the video the very next day. But that was after a lengthy hospital stay that you saw in the video. So for full disclosure, I do want to state that we both are from Wyoming. We grew up in Wyoming. We're very used to being in the outdoors. I grew up, and my wife grew up. We camped, backpacked extensively out in the mountains. I backpacked extensively throughout the desert, and we now live in the desert Southwest, and so we are very accustomed to the temperatures. When we left that day to go on the walk to do the filming, it was 84 degrees at the car when we left.
People go golfing here really nicely at 84 degrees.
It's a beautiful spring day here
it is.
At 84 degrees. So we didn't even think anything of it as far as being 84 degrees. We did have snacks with us. We had apples, we had fruit.
We had hats.
We had hats. We swam in suntan lotion.
Lots of water.
And we had at least 2 liters of water per person while we were down doing what we were doing and walking through St. Thomas. For whatever reason, it just got to both of us. In fact, actually, I was the original patient. I was the one who originally went down, and I lost actually. I didn't lose consciousness, but I basically was completely weak, dizzy, nauseated. In fact, actually, I called our daughter from down on the bottom and told her to bring more water our way. Mm-hmm. And so she wound up walking down with additional water besides the 2 liters, which we had already consumed at that point. Unfortunately, in all of this process, my wife, love her to death, decided to walk back to the car. She made it back to the car, grabbed additional water, and walked it back down to me.
You were in trouble. That's what I needed to do.
And in the meantime, I had actually tucked myself underneath a little bush, consumed an apple, and by the time all of this started to come together, I started to feel good, but my daughter and my wife were not doing well at all.
No.
The rescue group had been called. Overall, we had 3 ambulances respond, a park ranger, all very kind.
And thank you so much for being there and helping us out.
Yeah, the Moapa Valley Fire Department
Absolutely.
responded, and I'll tell you, they did an outstanding job. The Park Service responded. They did an outstanding job. We ultimately wound up, I wound up actually back at the car, and my wife and my daughter wound up taking an ambulance ride to Mesquite, Nevada, where they spent the next 6 hours or so being rehydrated. And actually we wound up having them both released from the hospital at about 12:30 that night.
Not a fun time.
No, and so it was very serious. In fact, I'm going to link in the video the CDC outlines for heat stroke and heat exhaustion. And I will tell you right now, just looking at this little chart that I'm about ready to link, we had 5 of the 9, I guess, symptoms for heat exhaustion and 4 of the 8 symptoms for heat stroke. So we were definitely well on the way to being overcome by the heat that was right around St. Thomas. And like I said, when we left, it was 84 degrees at the car. But the heat creeps up on you. It's no joke. I'm not as young as I once was. My wife is considerably younger than me, so she actually winds up being a lot better off. But I'm a little bit on the older side. I'm a little bit on the fluffier side. And so it basically just overcame me. I have to keep in mind that I am not the person of my youth growing in Wyoming. So I just wanted to basically come forward on the video, and we're going to finish the video here now, but I just wanted to let you know and send a huge thank you to all the responders that happened and came out that day to basically take us out of the bottom of the desert.
Yes.
And make sure that we were okay. And if it weren't for them, we may have actually been a permanent fixture of St. Thomas. So the only bad thing, well, there was a lot of bad things that happened that day, but we only made half of the loop. So yes. I will promise you that we will be going back to St. Thomas.
Definitely.
Not this summer.
No.
It will be a fall trip, and we will definitely finish the other half of the loop and make it a part 2 for St. Thomas. It's a very interesting place.
Definitely want to see the rest.
Yeah, and actually the rest, I mean, there's well, I won't tell you. I won't spoil it, so you'll have to stay tuned for part 2 coming out this fall. So make sure you check out the link for the CDC on the heat stroke and heat exhaustion, especially if you're not used to coming in the desert and the desert Southwest.
Even if you are, you need to check about. Always do more water than you think you need, because we went through it all plus some.
Yeah, and actually make sure, and we had plain water, which was fine, but I'll tell you, looking back on it now, I wish that we would have taken maybe like a Pedialyte or I think
Gatorade
it's called Gator Light or
yes.
something like that has the electrolytes in it, and that probably would have helped an awful lot that day. So
absolutely.
But I just want you to know it can happen to the best of us, and like I said, both of us are very used to the heat. In fact, actually right now it's about 115 degrees outside, which is not uncommon in the desert Southwest.
Nope.
We typically stay in when it's this hot, but we didn't really think too much about 84, but we will from now on. And with that, I'll let you get back to the conclusion of the video on St. Thomas. Thanks for watching, everybody.
Bye.
After our overnight stay in Mesquite, Nevada, we make our way back to Overton, Nevada to visit one last spot associated with St. Thomas. The town of Overton is located on the former St. Thomas branch of the Los Angeles and Salt Lake Railroad. The construction of the branch was completed by 1912. This allowed freight to go to and ship from St. Thomas, including ice, a very cool commodity for the desert climate. And just like that, we've arrived at the relocated St. Thomas Cemetery. The original St. Thomas Cemetery was established in 1865 and was located near St. Thomas. In 1935, once construction began on the Hoover Dam, the St. Thomas Cemetery was relocated south of Overton on a hill overlooking the Muddy River Valley. After relocation, it was briefly referred to as the Mead Lake Cemetery before officially becoming the St. Thomas Memorial Cemetery. Many of the early graves are marked but remain nameless, names lost forever on the winds of time. Well, this concludes our adventure today, visiting St. Thomas, Nevada. We end our adventure at the final resting place of all those people who lived and thrived in St. Thomas. Now remember, St. Thomas was essentially abandoned in 1938. In 1935, they decided to move the cemetery to the location that we are currently, just outside of Overton, Nevada, on a hill that overlooks the Overton arm of Lake Mead. Can't really see St. Thomas from here, but St. Thomas, what would have been St. Thomas, is in the distance. The people were relocated to this cemetery, and the descendants of those original people who lived in St. Thomas, they can still be buried in the St. Thomas Cemetery. So with that, let us know in the comments what you liked best about our visit to St. Thomas. Was it our trek through the desert? Was it the history of the Lake Mead area and construction of the Hoover Dam and how Lake Mead backed up and overtook St. Thomas? Let us know. We'd really love to hear anything about the history of this area or your comments about St. Thomas. Also, please, we're trying to grow this channel. If you would be so kind, please make sure you hit the big thumbs up and the subscribe button. We would sincerely appreciate it. And by the way, we do answer every comment that comes our way. So until next time, don't take a trip. Let the trip take you. I'll be seeing you on down the road. It feels good on a 104-degree day. I don't know, it's not really cooling me, but it's okay. Are we filming? Are we ready to go? I'm sitting here baking. Someone needs to flip me. I don't know if you can hear that, but the donkeys are braying in the distance. I think they think it's hot too. Hello everybody, welcome to chaos. Okay, got that. Hey everyone. Nope. Hey everybody. Okay. All right, take 8.